Hi there, I'm Charlene Mamo. I am from the RVH Finance Department, where I've worked for 3 years. I have a long and strong background in accounting, finance, and systems. And I'm the lead for the general financial team on the CARE4 project. And the general financials team covers the general ledger and fixed asset modules. So this morning I'll be talking to you after Tanya a bit about the GL.
Over to you, Tanya.
Okay, great. So my name is Tanya. I'm an accounts receivable clerk at Headwaters Healthcare Center. I started here just under 4 years ago, and before that I worked at William Osler for an additional 10 years, all in patient accounts. Currently I work with OHIP, Interprovincial, WSIB, client and cashiering, and in the past I have done every other profile that is needed in patient accounts. I've also done some journal entries in the GL and worked side by side with our admissions teams at William Osler, following up on signatures and generating revenue.
Thanks, Tanya. And Marcel?
I'm not sure if Marcel is prepared or here for an introduction, because it is Tanya doing the presentation.
Oh, I apologize.
But
okay.
Marcel was a big support in getting ready. So Marcel, I see that you're here now. So I do encourage you to introduce yourself.
Sorry, everyone. It looks like I'm having some problems with my video, but my name is Marcel Rouleau. I'm the application specialist within the administrative stream, most likely with revenue cycle and general ledger. My previous experience as manager of patient billing and receivables at the Sioux Area Hospital has provided me with some experience within this realm, and I'm using that experience in order to help the team here for the setup of the revenue cycle area for CARE4.
Thanks, Marcel. So we'll turn it over then to you, Tanya, to start the RCG demo.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to start by sharing my screen. And I hope you can see my expand screen now. That's just on the menus, the general menus.
We can see that.
Okay, great. So I have been asked to give you an overview of our patient accounting desktop, as well as the cashiering functions. We are regularly known as BAR, which is Billing and Accounts Receivable, but we're now changing our name to RCG, which is Revenue Cycle Group. So the first thing we see when we log on to the patient accounting desktop is our work list. So this is a great way for us to organize our day. We have several work lists to show you. So I'm just going to start at the top here. So if we expand today's schedule, it would give me a list of anything that's assigned to me that has a past due account in it so that I could prioritize and work on that first. I'm going to start with tasks. These are accounts that are ready for follow-up based on their collection stream. Tasks employees have scheduled for themselves, or Meditech assigned errors that need to be corrected. As an example, this first account, it's giving us a task to check the rate schedule. So the rate schedule has changed on the account and is asking us to evaluate to determine if the charges need to be reversed and rebatched using new rates. When we're in our work list, we can go into any area of the patient account that we need to, and we can also go back and forth between accounts. So we can just hit the next button down here and prior buttons to get back. To return to our work list, we'll just hit the work list and we're back, and we can see that the accounts that I looked at through the next simple process are checkmarked that we have viewed those accounts. In order to leave this work list, we're now just going to hit the home button and we're back to our main screen. The other work list is account checks. So these are our internal checks that we've set up for our insurance claims that we don't actually want to go through because they're missing some information. So this is a quick and easy way to just review all of those account checks and get them corrected for our next submission into the insurance companies. I like that this is set up because normally when we're doing our OHIP submission, we print out our account checks at the end, and then we work on them from paper. And in today's day, with some people working from home, it's not always an option to have printed copies in front of you. We also have a work list for credit balances. I don't have any here, but it is worth mentioning that this is a nice, neat way to keep all your credits and keep control of them and work on them whenever you have time, instead of leaving them until we find time and then all of a sudden we have a list of hundreds. So here we can work on each account and we can review and see what is needed to be done. It's worth mentioning here that we do have a hierarchy system built in to Expanse. So when we're completing our adjustments and write-offs, these batches won't post until be approved until the person with the appropriate signing authority approves the batch. This is a new work list for us, arrived by ambulance. This is going to allow us to streamline how we do our ambulance posting. And it should be nice, quick, and easy, similar to the way we post our smile balance write-off from an auto batching and selection file process. There's other work lists that find errors that can be corrected immediately instead of 60 to 90 days out when we start routine follow-up. One thing I came across when preparing is the personal watch list. So when I click on this, I can see that I have one account and I've made this my watch list. So imagine I have an uninsured patient and I really want to keep track of it and see when they're discharged so I can get that claim out as soon as possible to their insurance company. So I put it on my watch list and I can just go in and I'm checking for discharge. I put this comment for myself and I can see right here that the patient is still admitted. So this is a really easy process. I'm just going to go ahead and add one of these accounts to my watch list so you can see an example. And I've taken this account, added it to my watch list and say check for payment. So now when I go back to my home screen, my personal watch list now has two accounts and I can go between them. So I have this account here, check for payment, patient promised to pay. Now they haven't, so I'm going to go ahead and send this account to our collection agency. And then we have the original one saying check for discharge. So in this case, this patient did pay. They followed through on their promise. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that from my watch list because it's complete. I no longer need to worry about it. And my watch list is back down to just one account. These work lists are user specific and will be a great way for us to manage and prioritize our workload. I should note that when covering for people, you can also manage their work list. So I'm just going to bring up our task work list. And when we hit our criteria button down here, I'm going to go ahead and recompile this list. And instead of my name, I'm going to choose my coworker's name. And when we compile it, I can now see all of the tasks that she's assigned, and I can go ahead and cover for her and finalize all of these while she's off or on vacation. So in client server, we do have work lists. These are manually compiled and scheduled to compile, but we will make new lists each time. In Expanse, these work lists are constant and continuously update, removing corrected and completed accounts and adding new accounts as required. The next thing I'm going to show you is our receivables tab. So in our receivables, we can go ahead and see just with the simple click what's outstanding on our accounts receivable aging. So I'm going to go ahead and click aging here, and it gives you a breakdown of all the aging buckets. For this purpose, we know we always work on our oldest accounts first. So we're going to go ahead and click this column under yesterday's date. We're going to choose the over 181 days. And then when we hit display details, we can actually get a work list that creates all of those accounts that make up that amount, and we can go ahead and work on them. We can sort by insurance, we can sort by amount, and we can filter however we need to make this list how we'd like to work on it. Another really awesome thing is my stats. So this now takes just myself. So any work that's assigned to me, I'm the collector, I'm the biller, I can go ahead and process it the same way. So I'm going to go ahead and click aging, and I can see what I have in my buckets, and I have $510 in my over $181, 181 days rather, and I can pull it up and I can see that that's made up of these 4 accounts, and I can go ahead and work on those accounts only. The other thing is that I can search by insurance. So if I just want to work on my OHIP, then I can go ahead and click just my OHIP and display the details, and then I have my OHIP aging. So this is constant. Every day we'll be able to access this instead of just at the end of the month running an aging and then working on either a paper copy or a downloaded copy in Excel format. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show is the account summary. So the account summary is what we used to refer to as process account. So here, there's many similar functions: reviewing the account for transactions, collections notes, correcting bills, rebilling, requeuing claims are all done in updated ways, but are still familiar enough to promote an easy transition between the two systems. I'm going to show you a few of these manual routines that many of the RCG group will do daily, regardless of which position they hold. And I will show you a couple of fun, new, exciting things that the RCG group is really excited about. Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to show you is searching in RCG. Once we go to an account summary, we can simply type the account number and pull up the patient account. But if you noticed, when I was in there, there was also a drop-down menu. So there's several different options to search by. We can go ahead and click them here on the side, but we also don't need to. So just as easily, I can go ahead and type in the patient's account number, and it will bring up that same patient. I can type in the patient's medical record number, and it's good to note that either we can use all those zeros before or we can exclude them, and they both pull up the same account. We can pull up the patient by the EMR number. All of these are handy because especially when you get calls from the floors, sometimes they don't have our patient account number. Sometimes they work more with the other type of numbers within the hospital. And so we can pull up that patient regardless of which information they're able to provide us. You can search by phone number, and it's the same patient. And I thought it was really neat that we can also search by email address. So if a patient sends in an email to our accounts receivable email, and that's the only information they provided us, if we've captured their email address for any surveys or such that we do have linked to their patient account, we can then find the patient based on the data that we have. One other thing that is really amazing is the recently assessed function. So how many times are we on the phone with a patient and when we get off, we haven't completed the task, but the phone rings or somebody disrupts us and we go ahead and start working on a new account? And then your stomach drops and you think, oh my gosh, I've lost my account that I needed to put that note on or finally post this payment to. What do I do now? So in Expanse now, we have all the previously ones that we've worked on, and we can go ahead and these accounts can spark our memory. Oh yes, that's right. It was this account that we were working on, and go back to it. One thing you may have noticed is that we're in mixed case. We won't get errors if we have caps or not. So that is a big plus for us because I'm always seeming to get errors when I refuse to use my caps button. Okay, I'm going to bring up a patient account to work with. The summary tab is very similar to what we see in client server. One small thing that will make a big difference is having the patient address and the guarantor address both on the front screen. We know the patient guarantor mismatch has a huge role to play with the amount of return mail we receive. We are hopeful that having both show on the front screen will be a huge benefit when we're reviewing accounts, working on return mail, or working on our bad debt work list. At the top here, you'll notice all the patient information, just like in client server. So we have the patient's name, age, date of birth, the status of the account, and the account type. And then we have all of the admissions. So the admission date and time, discharge date and time. The account number. This here shows me actually where the OHIP number should be, and we are missing a patient policy number in this example. The amount that's outstanding for the entire account, the hospital number, the unit number, and the EMR number. One big change also is that we're used to seeing final bill and bad debt and unbilled. And so now we're going to see UR for unbilled receivables, AR for accounts receivable, and BD for bad debt. Also, as you can see in this example, it's possible to have all three. This would be especially useful maybe for a reoccurring account. Imagine, if you will, you have an uninsured patient that's receiving dialysis on a recurring account and they're not paying. So some of those accounts could be in collections. That's the bad debt part, but we can still keep some of the accounts current. And we can also have unbilled charges on that same account. So this is really good because we won't have to close off the account to send it to collections, and we won't just leave it in a pending status. We can actually show them we're serious about collections and send one or two of those bills to collections. On the patient info tab, it's very similar to client server. We have a similar layout with the tabs across the top. Here are a couple things that are new. You can go ahead and update the patient health card number right here in bar instead of going in, or rather RCG, instead of going into the admissions module. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to Ontario, and I'm going to put in an account number, or a health card number rather, and we're going to go ahead and save that. The other interesting thing is that we can review the patient's history. So normally we would have had to go into the admission module for this as well. I'm going to go ahead, registration was already checked off, but I'm going to include patient and insurance. And if you were working in any accounts that needed codes, you could go ahead and check that as well. So once we compile, we can see here that Geo has registered the patient account on the registration side, and then you can see what type of edits I have made to the account. So this is extra handy when trying to figure out who has made certain edits, and then maybe if it's something has gone wrong, we can correct that person and we know exactly who has made the error. One more thing that is new is that we can see the room preference right here on the RCG side. So we can see that this patient requested ward and they were put in a ward rate. At this point, I'm not seeing any reason that we should have to access the admission module. So we would be able to see those mismatches and either call to get them corrected and possibly even recoup revenue this way. On our insurance tab, one of the changes to note is that we can enter future dated insurances. For example, if a patient's admitted but her benefits with her new job do not start until tomorrow, we can have this programmed. Or if the patient is in a 3-month waiting period for OHIP, we can have the effective date for OHIP to take effect. And that would be done up here by order by effective date. So when the patient was admitted on September 16th, we would want this insurance. And then we could say on the 17th, we want to change it to this. And the system would automatically make those changes for us, and the bills and charges would go into the appropriate insurance buckets. Transactions. This is where we can review all the transactions such as charges, payments, and all action that happened to this specific account. For anyone who works in the GL, I'll show you quickly that you can zero in on incorrect GL numbers. So when you're in charges and you click on the GL account, you can see here that our ambulance charge is posting to an incorrect GL number, and it tells us incorrect GL number right here. For bills, this is also pretty similar to client server. One thing to note that when we're working with an account and we need to correct a charge, we're able to reverse the bills out of order, correct the charges and rebill. This is really important for OHIP claims. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to reverse this bill. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this one. I'm going to unbill it. And it's been canceled. And now it's showing as an unbilled receivable. These bills remain in place. 9 is still there, as well as 11 and 12. And then I can go ahead and demand a new bill. Assuming I've corrected something on it. Okay, and so now that becomes bill 13. So that's something that we thought was really important. This OHIP claim would not have to be kind of rebuild at the same time. It's allowed to stay there with this OHIP balance already submitted into OHIP. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you, I'm going to go into a Georgian Bay account, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to correct charges from an account. In this example, I'm going to get to the transactions, and I can show you that the first 3 days of the ward visit were charged at 0, and the following 4 days were charged at our non-resident of Canada rate. So obviously, after checking to make sure that we know that this is a non-resident of Canada, and these 3 charges should be the non-resident of Canada rate, we're able to correct this. So I'm going to go ahead into bills, and I'm going to unbill this. And I'm going to go back into transactions and into charges. And I can go ahead and choose to fix the transactions now. So we're going to pick just these 3 top charges that came over at 0 and hit OK. We have options down here. So we can reverse these charges if we want to remove them from the account. And for this example, we're going to repost to this account using the current charge amount. This gives us a preview down here and shows us that for the 15th, 16th, and 17th, all these ward charges are now going to be our non-resident of Canada rate, and we can go ahead and post them. This will save us a lot of time, especially when we're working with charges that have associated performing or ordering physicians, or even some of the doctor's billings that require codes associated with them. Instead of rebatching this and manually entering it all, we can just go ahead and fix this transaction, and all of the information associated with that account will stay. Okay. For our claims, this as well is very similar. One main difference to note is that we have a CSID number rather than the UCRN number. So it's the same function, it's a claim number associated with that specific claim for that specific account, just the name has changed. So when you highlight the bill that you have, and then you highlight the insurance that you want to look at, you can see that the claim, you can also verify that it was sent or if it was queued. I'm going to go ahead and show you what the claim looks like for our paper claims. Okay, so our claim form is relatively the same as it was in client server, and it contains all of the information that we need to submit in to the insurance companies, and it has the balances and the same information to be signed by the RCG clerk that's sending it in. Quick transactions. So with quick transactions, we can enter a charge, enter a payment through a cash drawer, or request a refund. For this example, I'm going to show you how to add a charge, and then we can look at the payment routine when we get to the cashiering section of the demo. So we're going to choose to post a charge. We're going to do a lookup, or if we know our journal, we can just go ahead and enter it there. So I'm choosing general charges. And our service date will be entered, and our charge code, I'm going to go ahead and enter an ambulance. On my next line, I'm going to go ahead and enter an OHIP charge so that you can see that this batch is actually smart. So when I enter a code that needs a performing and an ordering physician, it gives me these sections to complete. Whereas when I put in ambulance, it didn't. So you can go ahead and entering the performing physician. Okay, and then if you needed a diagnostic code with this entry, you can go ahead and put it here. And there's also the manual review indicator for OHIP claims. So I'm going to go ahead and post this, and those are now going to be showing up on my account in my unbilled receivable charges. Okay, so another thing I'm just going to show you quickly before we move on is just a copy of the bill. So I'm going to go ahead and print the ambulance bill. And you won't have as many options here because we will only see our site-specific charges. But if you notice for Headwaters, I have all charges, OHIP, self-pay charges only, and then summary of charges. So this OHIP summary of charges is actually self-pay charges only, sorry, is actually, it will exclude all the OHIP charges that always cause so much confusion, and it will only show self-pay items on that bill. For this example, I'm going to choose all charges, and I'm going to go ahead and print it. So this is what our new bills are going to look like. It's going to have our logos and all of our billing information, address, patient information, the charges, and all of the information about the account number, bill date, anything like that. And then you can see at the bottom here, the total charges are $45 and the total due is $45. Okay, we have put our payment options in the bottom for them to have easy access to how they can pay their bill. I'm going to go ahead and demand this new bill that we were just working on, and I'm going to show you how to remove the OHIP charges from the account, from the bill. So I'm going to queue all claims, just like we would, and then I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to generate the bill, and I'm going to choose self-pay charges only. So remember that we did bill an X-ray and an ambulance. I'm going to go ahead and print this. And we can see here that the ambulance is still the only thing that shows up, but here we do show estimated insurance due. We did bill your OHIP insurance card $10.70, but your amount that you need to pay is $45. Okay, so I'm going to bring another account over from Georgian Bay, and I'm going to show you on the financial summary tab that we can actually view all of the patient or guarantor's accounts all at the same time. So when we're in this account summary, we just go to financial summary and we can see here that Heather actually has 2 accounts with us. So the patient calls in, she says, I'm going to call in to pay this bill, GB 521, and we can see that there's $20 outstanding. Well, just with one click, we can also see that, well, she actually has a credit on this account. Maybe she doesn't really owe, and do a little bit of investigating to make sure that we're not going to overcharge her for this visit. So we have our aging data down here. If they had several accounts, we could see if anything were outstanding, and we can also see our self-pay collections and any payments made on the accounts. When we add notes, we can look in collection support to see any notes that were previously done. So it auto sets us to tasks. So these are tasks that we would have noticed in our task work list. And then we can go over to notes. So we can see information has been updated and complete. If we wanted to add a new note to this account, we would just click new note. And we can bypass this. If there was some standard information we wanted to put in, we could go ahead and use these categories that have been set up. But for this purpose, I'm just going to show you how to add a free text note. And what we used to refer to as a canned text note is now quick notes, quick text rather. Okay, so I'm in the text function and I can go ahead and just say called patient and work down a payment plan. Okay, and we save that. And now we can see that we would have one more note on here, called the patient and worked on a payment plan. Okay, so now we're going to enter one that is a quick text. So we can go ahead and hit the quick text function, and we have several to choose from, and there is lots and lots. So obviously everybody uses these for different situations, and we can just go ahead and say, okay, financial assistance approved, and we don't have to write anything else because it's already written for us, and we can save that to the account. Okay, so I'm going to close this section of the demo showing you what the system is capable if we have the scanning capability set up. So for this example, I'm going to show you, actually this is the wrong account, pardon me. Okay, so in this example, we have scanned in what is listed as an insurance card and a payment badge. So I'll start with showing you, explaining what the process is. So everybody knows when you're looking for something in files, it takes time. So it's a pretty huge burden that can be replaced with just a few clicks. We'll be able to scan documents to show proof of exemptions for ambulance service, email approvals from managers to remove charges, insurance cards, travel insurance, and my favorite is payment badges. This will give us a quick, easy access to submit coordination of benefit claims and review credits or posting errors right there on the account. So this first one is an insurance card. It takes a couple minutes for the first time you pull it up, but the second payment one will pop up instantly. So imagine, if you will, you receive a rejection from Manulife Insurance, and they tell you that they can't find the patient based on the policy information you provided. So if we have a scanned document in here, we can go ahead and pull it up with just one click, find out that yes, we did enter the insurance information incorrectly, get it corrected and resubmit. But like I just said, we can also have proof of exemptions for ambulance or approvals scanned in right here from managers saying that we're allowed to remove the charge. The next scanned image, you will have to use your imagination. It's supposed to be a payment badge. And this payment badge would be all the backup that was associated with the batch you posted. So if we had 10 insurance checks all from Sun Life, all of those 10 insurance checks would be viewed here. We would then be able to do a screen grab or print out just the page that we needed to be able to submit for our coordination of benefits. So I think this will save a lot of time rather than going into the files to try to find the backup based on the date that the payment was posted. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is we're going to start with the cashiering. So I'm just going to go ahead and close up some of these windows. Okay, so we're going to go to our batch desktop. And we're going to start by opening a cash drawer. So you come in the morning and you need to get started for the first patient that's going to call in and make their payment or show up at the cashier's office. For this example, I'm going to choose our HHC window 1. I'm going to go ahead and click open drawer. And I'm going to put in my opening amount as 0. If you're used to using a float amount, then you're welcome to continue to use that process. Now that it's open, there's 2 ways to enter cash into the drawer. Right here on this screen, we can enter cash. Or if you have access to the patient account, you can enter it through the quick transaction routine. I'll show you both. So we're going to go ahead and enter the cash. And up here, you may notice that we can choose by account, miscellaneous cash, or client. So we'll no longer have to choose that and sign to do the lookup. We'll just be able to do client and then either do a lookup or start typing the account name. For this demo, I'm going to do a patient account. And we'll go ahead and pull up this account. So once we pick the patient account number, we can see at the bottom it gives us anything that's outstanding for the account. We can see that we can choose several payment types. When we choose cash, it auto-populates our payment code. But if we choose credit card, we actually need to do a drop-down and pick the type of credit card needed. So for this example, I'm going to go ahead and choose Visa. This patient's going to pay $45 for an ambulance, and they have several ambulances on their bill for some reason. And it's going to auto-populate into the next bill that's due for $45. The next thing you'll notice is that we can print the receipt and we can say yes, no, or Q. An example of when we'd want to queue the receipt, is if we are doing a large amount of posting, then we may want to wait and just post all of the receipts at the same time. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to save this entry and I'm going to show you what the receipts look like. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay to preview the receipt. And you can see that we have our headwaters information up at the top, patient information, what they paid for, my comment that I wrote in, and a place to sign. Okay, so now I'm going to enter into the patient account and go ahead and post it through directly through the patient account through quick transactions. Okay, so we have the patient account we're working with. We're going to go ahead and choose quick transactions. And it's important to note, so one major thing that has changed is that if we ever want to be able to print or reprint a receipt for this patient, we have to post their payment through the window. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to our window 1. And I'm going to choose cash this time for $45. And our comment is ambulance again. And I'm just going to go ahead and change this to, it's going to auto-populate into that last one. So in real life, we probably wouldn't post 2 the same way. So I'm just going to go ahead and accept that and do OK. And you can see that the receipts are the same. OK. So now that we're back here in our summary, we're done for the day. We're going to close up. Our shift's over. We're going to go ahead and view the transactions. And we can see that both transactions are listed here. We can go ahead and balance up this way. We have one Visa for $45 and one cash for $45, and we can also print the details. So we'll go ahead and print the details. And this is what our drawer cash up will look like. So we can see that we're balanced off both accounts and we're ready to close. So back on our main screen now, we can choose to close our drawer. And our closing amount will now be $90 because we took 2 $45 payments, and we can go ahead and close. And this drawer is now closed. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to show you quickly how to reprint a receipt. So these payments that we just posted, we can go ahead and look in transactions and our non-charges because a payment is not a charge. And then we see that we have here cash drawer details. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, and we can see any payments that were posted to this account. And we can go ahead and print a receipt for the patient. You'll notice because a receipt was already generated, it does say duplicate receipt number, and the receipt number will be the same. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to show you, payments posting through a batch. So if we have insurance checks, we're going to go ahead and create a new batch. Now I should mention that this is still a work in progress, but I wanted to show you how it looks since it's a definite large part of our cashiering process. So I'm going to go ahead and open a batch and today's date. And when I do a lookup for this, I'm going to choose insurance payments only. And then one big difference is that instead of saying save, once you've set up all of your batches, you're actually just going to toggle over to this entries button, and we're going to go ahead and look. So one main difference is that we should search by CSID number. So we're looking at ways to do that still. So in this case, I'm going to show you both ways. So I'm going to enter in the claim number from our account we've been working with. And it's going to automatically know that this claim number is associated with a Green Shield claim, and that Green Shield claim was $195. So my payment code auto-populates in, my payment amount is $195, and we can put in our check number. Okay, if we hit save, it would back us right on this batch, so we're just going to go ahead and go down to our next line. And then if we did want to remove an account, we can go ahead and just click on it and hit the X button to remove it. We can also search by account number. So I'm going to show you that we can pull up this account by account number instead. When we do, we get every CSID number that was ever billed on that patient. So normally you may not see all of these. This is an account we've been playing a lot with back and forth. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick the appropriate one, which is our Green Shield for $195. And we can see that the same information pops up, and I'm going to go ahead and put $195 there as a payment. And I'm going to go ahead and post. So when I save, that just backs us out, but it's not posted. So I would want to look at this and process batches. And then I'm going to check mark the one that I want to, and then I can list it and post it. So for this case, I'm going to go ahead and post it. So I want to thank you for joining us for the RCG demo. The system is capable of so much, and we are continuing to test processes to make sure that RCG is ready and user-friendly for go live. Now I'm going to pass it over to Charlene, who will show you the GL application.
Thank you, Tanya. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the GL. So there is very little. There's very little change in functionality. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so there's very little change in functionality from client server to Expanse for both the general ledger and the fixed asset applications. For Collingwood, who's transitioning from Great Plains to Meditech, it will of course be totally new. So the significant change that all GL users will see is the change in GL structure, meaning the components and the GL account combinations. So first off, since we're 4 hospitals coming into a single shared chart of accounts, corporation codes are changing for all, as shown here. So here we can see the future state, Expanse components, and GL accounts on the above row with the client server current layout below for comparison. So for the department component, the program code is increasing from 2 to 3 digits, and the period is removed to accommodate. So for all GL account combinations, the 1 or 2, which is currently in the 3rd position and indicates either a money or a stat account, has been removed. So on the income statement, the revenue and expense components will be the same length in Expanse at 7 digits. So account combinations for revenue and expenses are made up of the department, a period, and then the ROC or the EOC. For balance sheet accounts, the asset and liability codes have increased by 1 digit from 5 to 6. So we see that without the 1. The account number is the corp code, type, and fund, followed by a period, and then the asset or liability code. For statistic accounts, the statistic object code is the same length as in client server, so 8 digits. So similar to a revenue or expense account, a stat account is the department, followed by a period, and then the SOC. So full GL account combinations, or one or more of these individual components, can be used just as they are today to run any standard money or statistic report. So I'll demonstrate a trial balance report. So I wasn't able to find a user to emulate. So the main menu that we're showing here is based on my, pretty full build team access. So in live, most users will not see the full menu options here, but the path would be the same. So we will see the financial menu, and then general ledger, standard money reports, and we're going to run a detailed trial balance. So I'm going to run a report for September 2019 because that's a period that has some data in there that will show up on the report. So I'm going to run for a range of GL accounts, and it's just going to be a small range of 2 AR accounts. So if you work in the GL now, you'll see that there's almost no change to this input screen to run the report. And that's the case for most of the GL module. So, and when we run the report, again, we see a very familiar output that shows the GL account number and name, the totals for the periods, and all of the transaction details. So the next thing I'll show you is the drill down function. So back at the main menu, under the general ledger menu, we have process drill down. So here we're going to look up from Corp 70, which is RVH, for the period of February 2021. And I'm going to use combination to select the accounts this time instead of using a range. So we're going to look up revenue accounts, and we want to see all accounts that use this ROC, which is for lab referred in revenue, just as an example. So when we drill down there, we're given a list of all of the GL accounts that match the criteria that we entered. So we can see the period totals in this table and comparative totals from the same period last year, if we had any. So because this is a test system, there are no comparative amounts from February 2020. And then below the table, there's a bit more information for the active row up here, where we can see the full GL account name, and some more totals. So let's see what makes up this $150.51 for this lab chemistry account. So I'm going to select that row and click drill down. So here we can see a list of the GL batches that make up that total. So in this case, we're only seeing 2 patient accounting batches. So you can see here the journal is patient accounting batch, which is known currently in client server as a bar batch. So bar batches will be under patient accounting batches. So for revenue accounts, it's not uncommon, depending on your site and the specific account, to see only a month-end bar batch or patient accounting batch. But any account that you look up that has any other batches, all of the batches will be listed here, any general journal batches or from any other system. And then again, below the table, for the active batch shown, you see some more detail on that batch. So let's select this patient accounting batch, and we're going to click Application Drill Down. So now we can see a list of the individual transactions from the patient account that make up that GL batch total. So each row on the list shows us the patient account number, the patient name, the service date of the charge code, charge description, quantity, and amount. And here again, for the selected row, we can see a bit more information on about the patient account and the charge batch. And we can even see the basis for why this particular charge went to this GL account, whether it was the standard parameter expression, as in this case, or if there was an override account, we would see that here. Now, you may have noticed that we've been brought back to the patient accounting desktop, which we saw just a few minutes ago that Tanya showed us. So from here, we can view any of the information that we did see from Tanya for any of the accounts in the list. So we can select an item and we can view the account summary. We can see all of the transactions on the account. We can see bills. We have the prior and the next buttons, as Tanya demonstrated, to move through the list. And then we can go back to the work list to see the full list again. So although the GL application hasn't changed, by using the drill down feature, we're also able to take advantage of the improvements in the RCG module. So we can print or download this list. So by doing this, we can get a printer-friendly report or an Excel-friendly text file export, which for many accountants is a very exciting thing. It is for me, that's for sure. So that's a demonstration of, a revenue batch drilling down into the RCG application, but the drill down feature works the same way for other modules. So for MMAP, for so materials management and accounts payable, for fixed assets, and for payroll transactions. So we can navigate from a GL account back to the actual PO or to an employee's time card, depending on your access. However, something worth mentioning is that the Excel-friendly download may not be available in other modules. It depends on if they have changed in Expanse or not. So, and then the last thing I'll mention is that what applications each site can drill down on depends on whether they use the module in Meditech. So all 4 sites are using RCG and fixed assets, so we all get the full drill down benefit for those modules. For MMAP, all sites except RVH will get full drill down functionality. For RVH, we can get the drill down for pharmacy purchases and payables. And then payroll applications are used by Georgian Bay and Headwaters, so they get the benefit of that drill down.